this is episode 5 and today we're going to be making a little model of little old Fryn. So let's get cracking. So this little Fryn here is done without an armature. He's just modelling paste and he's quite small. I actually made him in clay a little while ago and the whole idea for the Cwtch was built around this little character. But when I was thinking about it, I thought I want him to sit on a chair but not look like a child. So I want his legs to dangle over. I want his head to be slightly taller. So the best way to do that is to use an armature. Now, I have drawn up very scruffily, but I will put it nice and neatly for you on the Cakeflix page. These are the wires that you're going to need to bend. So it's in 3 pieces. There we go. And the third. Now, I always try and have one wire to do a couple of things. So this wire is going to do both one leg and the arm, and this one is going to be one leg and the neck support. And this wire is the arm and fixing the 3 together. So it'll just give me a decent amount of playing room, really, because I wanted to be able to develop this character. So you've got the options. This wire here, which came off the one arm, can be pulled across. So let's pull it over straight, making sure that the shoulders stay the same length. And I'm basically just going to be wrapping it around. I want him to have fairly broad shoulders as well. So although this isn't going to hold it perfectly into position, it's a starting point. And then I tend to grab myself another wire. In this case, I'm going to use a 26 gauge wire. So can you see that's already holding its own? But let's get a 26 gauge wire. And I'm going to wrap this around nice and tightly now. So make sure it's all in line. Now we're going to be covering this with some foil as well. So you're going to use a lot less paste than you would normally. So there we go. You have a very basic armature there. I do need some foil to pad out the body. Doesn't matter what brand of foil you use, and it doesn't actually matter for this purpose on the thickness. What I am going to do is just cut out a piece of foil. So this is 5, 10, hang on, let me see if I can see the wires. 5, 10, 15, 20, 12. This is 30 centimetres long and it's about 15 centimetres or thereabouts wide. And we're just going to make it narrower by concertinaing it up. And then I'm going to be wrapping this foil over the 2 shoulders to start. So you're giving him a jacket. And you're going to come over the shoulder and around the chest. Now you can move your arms out of the way as well. So around the chest, padding out that chest area and padding out that belly area. That is our main concern. And then we're going to get another piece to keep going. So I squeeze it at every point because can you see we've got the body, but he hasn't got any hips yet. So I'm going to concertina another piece. Now you can do this with kitchen paper as well if you didn't want it to be so heavy. I'm going to give him another gentle strip coming over and mainly just to make sure he's nice and strongly formed. Like I said, this means I don't have to use very much paste at all. But it also means your model doesn't weigh as much, so that's the important part. This time you want to go through the legs and up behind his bottom. So now you can see why I wanted this chair to have a little bit of support as well. So that was just regular foil and the armature with the wires following the template that I gave you. Always move the arms out a little bit as well. I think we're going to shorten those elbows now that we know where he's going to sit. So I'm just going to shorten them so it sits into the waist. Can you see? Not worried about his bottom still. There we are, into the waist. And we'll only shorten those wires for the hands when we're ready for it. So you could cut that up there, but his cloak is going to cover. So if you wanted to put where they're maybe wearing shorts, you'd have to cut away some of that foil there, but we don't need to with this particular guy. So I think we're just going to work with florist tape and kitchen paper to thicken the arm. So with florist tape, the way you tear it, as I've mentioned previously, you find the little perforations along the top and that's where you tear it. You can tear it as thick or as thin as you like, depending on how much you grab. So let's just grab a couple of pieces. That's all we really need. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to be wrapping some tape around the top of his arms. Some kitchen paper. So I'm going to add this one on, wrapping it around. So I'm going to add a little bit of paper, sorry, I keep calling it tape. A little bit of paper at the bottom. And then a little bit of glue on my finger just to fix it in place. Grab another piece. And I'm not worried about whether it's attached to the knees or the thighs because the tape will do that for me in a minute. This is just the way the kitchen paper. Now you could do this with florist tape as well, but I'm going to do florist tape over the top. So that's going to hold that together for me. There we go. So you can see our little guy already. Now, florist tape, if you're going to see any part of the body, I would do it in a pale colour, like a white. But I am also very conscious that white florist tape is not very easy to use on camera. So I'm going to try it, but then the rest of it I'm going to do in green. And I'm not even neatly binding this. I'm just giving it quite a rough coat because all this is going to do is stop that paper from coming off. It's got no other job. It also means it's easier for the paste to stick onto the wire than if you didn't have the florist tape there. See, so I'm very, very roughly taping this into place. So I haven't done the top yet, as you can see. So you can see the one arm has been taped. So I'm going to go ahead and tape the whole of the body now. And I'll do the body in green and the arms and legs in white just to make it easier to see. Always remember to stretch your tape before you use it. All right. It also means that with the arms and the legs, there's potential for the base to be in skin tone and there's potential there for skin tone. So I don't really want the green underneath, do I? So what I've decided I'm going to do is put a loop, and that loop is going to be how I attach the paste to the head. But you can see now I've got a nice tall eyelet which is perfectly suited to support all of his head. There we are, can you see? So if you have a look now, although his neck and his shoulders come down a little bit lower, that is going to be the length of his neck, and I've got a bit longer. I've got a bit longer to go in for his head. So let's carry on taping this now. So as you can see, I've had another idea, and can you see his little feet up off the floor? Wouldn't it be adorable to have one of the little mushrooms as his footstool just to go underneath? So I'm going to leave his feet resting up. I think that would look amazing. So that's how he looks now. I've tidied him up a little bit. I've also posed him a little bit better. So I've got the lean in, I've got the head lolling forward. I'll move the arms down when I'm ready, and this foot is up on the stool. There we go. So that's the finished armature. Hello, my name's Rhianydd Webb of Dragons and Daffodils Cakes. Last year, I celebrated my 20th year in business by writing Cyril's Cake Adventure. So join me for the next 6 sessions for Woodland and Whimsical cake art. So I've got 3 grams each for the feet, and I'm going to fix this onto his leg. I want the pulling up some spare bits up so that attaches the foot to the leg nicely. And what you actually need to do is to let this go cold. And this is half and half Saracino and the Life in Sugar modelling chocolate. And the reason I've gone for half and half today is because I want the flexibility that the modelling chocolate gives me, but it's a really hot day. So I figure if I do it half and half, I've got that little bit of stability that I want. There we go, let's just pull this up. Now, even when you're using a weighing scales, it's not actually that accurate unless you pay an awful lot of money for one. So it's always within 1 gram out. So I never actually assume the feet are the right size until I start modelling them. Now, normally I'd go straight away and start modelling them, but today I'm just going to let them go cold a little bit, just to let it shape up. And then what I can do is start on something else at the same time. So you could be working on a couple of things at once this way. You can't do that with sugar paste, but you can do it if you're working with a modelling chocolate or a modelling paste like Saracino that's got the cocoa in it. There we are, see? Lovely big old feet, big old hobbit feet. We want some character to this little guy. So I'm going to pull his heels now, get those heels sticking out a bit at the back. So you've got the Achilles section at the back, so it curves around. They hollow a bit. There we go, on the inside, and his toes will come up. I just want to get the size right before I go on any further. Can you see that one's obviously got a little bit more paste than the other one? So they were 3 grams each, and like I said, they were half and half of Saracino. So now I'm going to get some brown. Right, so I'm going to weigh out 30 grams of paste, and this is half and half Life in Sugar and half Saracino. Now I pop this in the fridge briefly for it to go nice and cold, and as a result it's too cold. And the easiest way to work out whether you've got enough paste is to roll it roughly into a sausage, the same length as your figure. Excuse the wobbling from the camera. I'm just going to roll out my paste. Can you see what happens when you mix it in with the paste? It gets this lovely, slightly uneven look, which I'm keeping. I'm not actually rolling it out, kneading out completely, because I want it to look really old. And if you don't quite knead them together, you get these slightly different patches of colour, which just looks fantastic. So that needs to be roughly the height of the trousers. Then I can cut it in half. And pick your neatest side of the paste. I'm going with this side. And that's going to be what you can see. So I'm going to turn that over. And then I'm going to make sure the bottom is nice and thin. Oops. Out of the way, Fryn. So the bottom's nice and thin on both of them. Only the bottom, doesn't matter about the rest. Because what you're going to do, you're going to make sure that leg is wide enough to go all the way around. So let's have a quick look. So he is going to have this trouser leg. Let's choose the side again. Yep, we like that one. So this trouser leg is going to come all the way around. And we know you're not really going to see much of underneath, so we're going to cheat. We're going to hide that underneath. And what we're going to do, we're going to be squeezing that together. And we're going to use the scissors to trim that. So you know you're not going to need all of this chocolate. So I will measure it at the end and tell you how much I actually used. Okay, so I'm going to trim up that leg, and up that leg. So you can make sure they're joined, but by using it with the scissors, it joins it together. Now I know you'd normally have the seam going down the inside of the trouser leg, but I've done it this way because of the weather being so warm and because it means I can really, really easily get it. I'm not so worried about cutting neatly now, but we're just trimming off this excess. There we go. Nice high-waisted trousers. Not that you're going to see any of the top of the trousers, you're only going to see the bottom, but you've got to complete the image in your head, haven't you? There we go, one trouser leg. So now I've got the other one, making sure it's nice and thin. I'll move the rest to one side so we know exactly how much I've used. And I want that side again. So I'm going to do exactly the same again. I'm going to lean him over, and what I'm doing is aiming to have the trousers are roughly the same length as the others. So now what I'm going to have to do is to cut that leg there. So I can tuck that piece of paste, and I'm trying not to touch anything because can you see I'm sticking to it? And I had corn flour on my fingers, but it's about 30 degrees, so there's not a lot you can do. It is 30 degrees in the schoolroom at the moment. It's about 26, 27 outside, so for Wales that's pretty warm. And we got warmer last week, it was 32. We're not used to that in Wales. And I know other countries get hotter, but this is Wales. It's usually raining. There we go. That's why the fan's on, by the way, so I'm really sorry about the fan noise. But if we didn't have the fan noise, we would have no modelling. Okay, let's cut off the rest of all this. We don't need it. Love scissors for doing modelling. So I want to grab a Dresden, blend all this paste together so it's all joined. Not worried at all about the underside. All I need to do is to make sure that what you can see hasn't got any seams. So that's the only bit they're going to see. So I'm going to blend that. You see how soft that foot is? So blend this as well. Anywhere you've made a join, just blend it in nicely and make sure the trousers finish up towards the top, because when you've put the paste in, it'll have gone thicker. There we go. How's that for a quick pair of trousers, eh? Right, I've rolled out my paste. So this is 50 grams of the Saracino green mixed with 20 grams of the brown. Now you remember the brown mix we used for the trousers, so that was half and half Saracino's brown and the Life and Sugar's chocolate brown. So bubbly tonight. It's so hot. So we're going to see how this goes. So what I'm basically going to do, I'm figuring I'm going to cover this bottom half first, and my theory is, can you see how thick it is? It's not crazy thick. So I actually only need a strip about that long. Now I can roughly work out normally how long it needs to be to go round him by just wrapping it around. But today, if I wrap it around, there you go, it's stuck already. You gotta be careful when it's hot weather. It doesn't seem to matter what paste you use in the hot weather. So that is roughly the length of the paste that I'm going to use to go round him. So what you need to do is need to look to see which part is the better. Ooh, look at the lovely dark colour on there, because it hasn't dried out in the air. I think that's what we're going to use. So we're going to wrap that around his waist. There we go. Can you see I've got a nice edge on there already? So what you can do is to just give it a bit of a pull here and there, so it's not perfect, because it's an old wizardy kind of outfit. We don't want it too smooth, do we? And I'm allowing it to stretch a bit and to distort a bit as well. But I want that nice dark green underneath. So I'm going to wrap that to there. And I think I want this side to go in first. So again, I've stretched it a little. I'm going to pull a bit off. And I'm going to wrap it under his arm and loosely over. And I can actually trim off some of this. So let's take off a good chunk of that. And we know we're going to need to take off a chunk of the other side as well. So I'm going to pick him up now. Pick him up. It can gather a little bit. That's great. There we are. Look how easy that is. And I'm leaving that extra paste there because that is going to help pad out his body somewhat. So now we need a bit to go around the top part. There is no template for this. The reason being, I just want to show you a nice easy way to do it. It needs to be doubled over a little bit. So I want him to go down to his waist, up to his neck and back down to his waist again. So I need to double it to about here. I'm going to use this as the front, like that. Do a slit. And I'm going to check the gap again, a little bit too long on the bottom. Let's take some of that off. It's because I can't lean my head over, otherwise you just see the top of my head. Not so helpful. So that's going to go there. That'll be his waist. And this is going to come around to that side and kind of tuck in like a wraparound. And this one's going to come around to that side. Let's move his arm out of the way. Again, like a wraparound. And can you see where the arms are? A little bit of a slit there. A little bit of a slit there. So that can pull up here a little bit. Now, I'm going to put a sash coming down the front, but his beard, don't forget, is going to hide everything, isn't it? So I'll lift that arm, just tuck that underneath. All we're doing is roughly covering the body at this junction. I'm just going to pull all of this, blend all of this in a little bit, because that's extra. That's what we call more padding. So now this bit on the back, straighten his arms. Hello, mister. Let's get you dressed. That comes around, and look, we've got the bit at the front that neatens. So that bit's going to come in first. But you've got to make sure it's not going to overhang the bottom half. Let's nip, and we'll pinch that together at the side, and then we're going to do the other one. Comes over the back, we're going to neaten, so don't worry about the back. We're going to snip it again, because the other reason we're using this paste is because it's beautifully blendable. So we're really not worried. But can you see from the front, we're kind of getting there, aren't we? So snip off all your excess. You can leave that bit on the arm because it'll pad out the arm a little bit. Because remember, we haven't padded anything on the arms really, have we? Just a little bit of kitchen paper and florist tape. So this now will curve over that way, so it tucks under. So I'm turning my Dresden out round so it tucks underneath. So how easy is that for a nice little wizardy outfit? So I've rolled out some 5 grams of brown really thinly. I'm just going to release it from the table, and then what I'm going to do is see if this works when it's as hot as this. Usually it works nicely, but it might not work today. Oh, it works, look. Can you see? This is how to get a nice simple sash that's twisted a bit. Only in one direction, and we'll twist it even more. I might go in the other direction. It's so hot, everything is just blurring, but can you see that's what I'm aiming for there? Yes, that will do nicely. So you can see slightly wobbly sash. I am going to lie him down because it's so much easier, and you're protecting the front of your figure, which it's, let's face it, that's where everyone's going to see. So I'm going to tuck that in there, pop it down, but before I fix it, I'm going to cut a bit off the end and a little bit of the stretched bit off that end. Pull those in, roll one into a ball, pop it in the center, and then just put a line over the middle and a line over the middle. There we go. And that will be his knotted sash. So his lovely wizardy trousers and his lovely wizardy jacket, but his sleeves are not wizardy until they've had the lovely drapey sleeves. So join me after the break and we'll be putting on the hands and the sleeves. time to do those feet. Right then, let's see if they've cooled down enough. Probably not, because it's absolutely boiling. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put an indentation along there. Can you see? So what that does, that lets the toes rise up a little bit. I'll do the other foot separate. I'll just show you the one. So the big toe is going to be obviously on the inside. Had to think there. There we go. So I want his toes to be lifted up on this foot because he's kind of stretched out. He's kind of enjoying himself in his chair. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a little scissors and I'm going to cut out the first section. Now it's going to stick tonight, okay? Tried doing it when it was cooler. It's not cooler. There we go. So you've divided those toes already. Now, a good hint, put this tool where it would be there on top. I'm going to go there underneath. And that is going to create the curve on the underside of the foot. So you can keep it nice and hollowed. Keep those toes separate. Now I'm going to cut out another V. And shall I give you a hint? I'm only going to go up to there. So that's the next V. So I'm going to cut a V right there. Might not come out so easily, so we might have to cut out in a couple of pieces just because it's so sticky. There we go. Now that will be those two toes. So let's straighten it back up. And that, give it a bit of a pull. Something in there. Sorry, mister, you're going to have dirty feet anyway. There we go. So that will be divided into two toes. So if you like, you can put yourself a little dot. That'll be divided into two toes. Put a dent on the side because that's where the little toe will go. So put a little line there. But instead of cutting out a V, just divide them. One in there. One in there. So that's the easiest way to divide the toes. Don't try doing too much. Can you see I'm just tapping them in a little bit? Like that, just tapping away. There you go. I have no idea what that is. Could be the wire coming through, knowing my luck. Everything's melting. There we go. So I'm just emphasizing that line, that indentation. The line between the toes, but more importantly, this one in particular. So if it needs to be longer, don't be afraid to give it another cut, like that. Okay, you can make sure that line is still there and soften the foot once you've done it, and they're all kind of tucked under. So now we're going to put these toenails on. Gnarly toenails always look great. So this is the chart 305 and I'm going to use the small end, but I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm just going to go press, 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 press and press. And also by pressing, it's condensed the toes. So it's made the little toes look like they're curling a little bit. So all I'm going to do is work with that. There we go. And just drawing the line down the side of each toe. And then I'm going to end the toenail on each foot. So just draw a little line just by leaning the scalpel against it. And if it doesn't look very prominent on the big toe, make it more prominent. Okay, so maybe lift those toes up a bit. Push them along a little bit if you want to. But I'm kind of liking this curliness. Do you remember the line we did underneath? You can emphasize it again. Okay. The only other thing I would probably do is gently draw the handle of my tool up the feet just to give those bones. So when we put a bit of colour on the foot, you'll see all those lines. And if the toe looks too chunky, just push a gap in with the scalpel, because all it'll do is it'll just shape it back up again. There we go, that's one foot. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other foot done, and then we'll come and do the hands. Now I want to trim that foot, make one side, which is the little toe side, a little bit narrower. I don't want it too thin because I want them to be lovely, big, chunky hobbit feet. Pull the big toe out of the way and curve that toe around. Just a lovely curve, and make sure there's a separation going on. Look at that, lovely. Oh, oh, air on the toes, air on the toes. And this foot looks like it's leaning down, reaching for the floor, having a bit of a stretch, but this one's on the stool. Okay. So the toenails sit on the top of the foot, they don't sit on the end or underneath. There we go, that looks cool. Okay, so we're going to get some hands on there. Let's do these in a simple way. Right, so what's this magic I hear you say? How is Fryn finished already? Well, interesting fact is, editing away, discover there's an entire video missing. So all of that work, don't know where it's gone. So what I'm going to show you is how I did the arms, but I'm not going to take apart poor Fryn to do it. So let's just bend a piece of the shaped wire. So if you remember, we covered the florist wire with kitchen paper and then tape. Now with the hands, there are no hands. Let me just show you Fryn. Fryn's hands are hidden inside his sleeve. Nice and easy. I hear you'll be happy. And that was always the plan. The same as, well, the feet are where the detail are, but the hands were meant to be nice and simple. So the hands are nothing more than two paddles that overlap each other inside the sleeves. So that's all we needed to do for those, and that's all I did on the first video. Now, do you remember the leftover green we had? Obviously this is a little bit lighter because this has been dusted since. So what I did to do the arms, I just rolled out the spare, okay, and then I cut it in half. So this would be one and this would be the other. Always look on the underside of your paste when you've done this, because it's going to look a ton better when you look at the underside. It's going to be nice and shiny. And what I wanted to do was to have an open end on this side. So if this is against Fryn's body, okay, so that would be sitting there like this. I didn't lean him over because, as I said, he's all finished now. He's ready to go into the Cwtch tomorrow, actually. That's when I'm filming again. So that goes in there. So all I did, when the arm was in position, I tucked this underneath the arm and I fixed it to the hand slightly, and then I'll overlap this section with a lovely big loop. Can you see? So that I wanted really nice and big and looped coming over there. And then I trimmed, let's move you Fryn, sorry buddy, and then I trimmed this section over there, and that got tucked into the arm, and what wasn't needed was cut away. And then, really easy this arm was, it's a bit of a cheat actually, this got tucked in underneath, and can you see when you tuck it in, it gives you loads of texture. Look at that texture you got just from tucking it in. Now I know that's not a perfect representation of an arm. Let me just grab a Dresden. So if this arm was attached to the real Fryn, we would have been tucking it away, adding in the pleats and the creases. This was lovely and loose. Pinch the edges to make it look a bit raggedy, because it's got to look a bit old, doesn't it? And then put the wrinkles and the creases into the clothing. And then let's say the arm would have come out to about there. So let me just show you. So as you can see, it was just a crease across and then add in the creases. But the beauty is you can put depth and colour in those creases there. Let me show you that one. Again, flopped over. See? So you get the idea with those bits. But yes, the paste colour, that all came because obviously it was the original colour and it was dusted as well. I did want to show you how I did the top of the arm. So let me just trim a bit off this wire, make it a bit shorter so this actually sleeve length for you. Hang on. Now, the top of the wire, all I did, you can't tuck it in inside the body, can you? Let's make that shorter again, actually. Okay, so to neaten the top, you'd have to trim some of this away first. So keep it to roughly the width and the height that you wanted the sleeve to be. And then I used that well-known glorious Dresden. And can you see the cupped side of the Dresden? That's where I cup around the top of the sleeve. Right, let me see if I can show you that. There we go. So that Dresden fits beautifully around the side of the arm. These creases then, you could either use the wide side, or this one was done using the narrow side. Again, going up, and add creases, make it look scruffy, because it was supposed to be a wizard sleeve, you know. So I draw the line at doing Rapunzel style little pleats along the top. I left that really smooth as well. So if you think it's a hot day, you could pop in some kitchen paper inside there just to support that sleeve and just make it look lovely and creasy and wrinkled. And when you put the other sleeve on, it tucks over. So just have a little hint of sleeve showing. You can see, look, you can barely see the hand at all. So you could even get away without putting a hand on there. Right, so we're just going to take a quick break and then join me for the final part.
Hi, my name's Paul Bradford and welcome to Module 7 Novelty Cakes. So the first thing we're going to learn to make on this module is the classic 3D teddy bear. So I'm going to take you through all the different stages. The first one is how to create this beautiful marbled iced board. Then I'm going to take you through how to carve a cake that's unusual shaped, how to ganache and ice an unusual shaped cake, and then how to get this beautiful piped buttercream fur. Okay, then the next cake we're going to learn on this module is the dragon cake. So on this one, I'm going to teach you how to carve this really nice little mountain shape. Then of course you're going to have to ganache it, but there's a little secret with the ganaching with this one, which you'll learn when you're in there. And then also I'm going to do a marble effect, a green marble, to help with that stone effect. We're going to create the stones around the bottom of the mountain, and then we're going to airbrush that one. So this is going to learn how to do some little basic airbrushing and shading. And the cherry on the cake, of course, is this beautiful dragon. I'm going to take you through all the different stages using modelling paste to create your very own 3D dragon. And then finally, we're going to then move on to making a 3D handbag. So this is one of the classic cakes, and of course it's a bread and butter for anyone's cake portfolio, is how to make a handbag cake. So on this lesson, we're going to learn how to carve quite a simple shape, but how to get a really sharp finish. It's very important with handbags to get a sharp finish. And then we're going to panel the cake, which is a little bit different from these two. We're going to panel, again, helping to get a nice clean, sharp finish. And then we're going to finish off with these beautiful polka dots, the handle, the flap, and all the magical finishing touches. So as you can see, in Module 7, you're going to learn 3 completely different cake designs, but these cake designs are going to take you to the next level. So come on, let's get started.
Welcome back to the last part. Right, he can't smile at us without a face, can he? So we just need to get a bit of a face on there. But the good news is there's not actually really any modelling going to go on. We just need to put a lump of paste for the head and a nose. We're talking 24 grams, and this is the Skin Tone Saracino and White Chocolate Bar by Life in Sugar. And I am literally doing nothing more then placing this head on like that, and we're going to have him leaning forward. So flatten the front ever so slightly, because his hat is going to, his hood rather, is going to cover everything. This weird cone shape is for a reason, because what it means is that that's going to help support his hood. I've mixed up some grey with Saracino white and the Fractal Colours black, the full fill gel, sorry. And what I'm going to do is just roughly pull it into the shape I want his beard to be. And then all I've done is this kind of tapered shape. So in order to get the beard effect that I want, I'm going to use my Dresden, and I'm going to drag really deep grooves into this paste, and I just want it swishy. No particular texture really, just lots of lines like that. And then make sure you release it off the board without killing your lines, because they are going to move, aren't they? So that's going to come down, pinching up the sides, tucking it in, and leaning his beard over his arm. We need to get that nose on next. Now, big nose, so I'm going to pinch a weird nose shape to start, and then I'm going to cut it so it's roughly the size I would like his nose to be, and stick that nose onto the front. So I'm going to blend it in, which doesn't matter because the hood covers all of it. And then we need to hook out those nostrils. So I'm going to put a dent first, and a dent that side, because he's huge nose. Don't worry where it goes, because his nose hair is going to come out of it. Got to have nose hair. I'm also going to tuck around a nostril flare around there, just in case you can see it. We want some great big huge nostril flareage going on there. There we are, blend that in, making sure I can see this now. And I'm going to go a bit deeper, like that. With the end of every nose, there's a bit of a dent there, and there's a bit of a dent there. Make sure those nostrils really come out, you know. We are going to pick his nose. In it goes, and out it comes. In it goes, and out it comes. Okay, big nose on this guy, looks great. So we need to get his hood on now. Now the reason I rolled out my paste earlier is because I needed it to get cold and needed it to get dry. So make sure he's got enough of a pointy head going on. Weird as that may be, that's going to support his hat, his hood, whatever you call it. And then we put his whiskers on, because he hasn't got the rest of his whiskers yet. So, we're going to use the back, as always. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut, doesn't matter whether it's neatly or not, cut from the front, and then I'm going to press and smooth a little bit with my hand. I can't smooth too much because it's that sticky tonight. Then we are going to come over his head, right, only visible for a little bit of nose, and then to the side. And what we're going to do, we're going to tuck that side so it sits on his shoulder. We're going to tuck this side so it sits on his shoulder. This is how I do Father Christmas hoods, by the way. So, and then keep on tucking them underneath. Tuck it underneath. And what happens, you kind of wrap it around to the back, keep on tucking it under, and pinch off. I'm going to come a bit forward, pinch off the top, like that. So you pinch it together, and then pull it down. You can see what's happening now. His nose is visible. The side of his hood needs to be visible. So I want it to come out at the sides, but not at the top, because I want his moustache to come out. But this bit needs to just be shaped hat shape. So you get your Dresden, put in lines, lots of lines. Hello feet. Whoops, did I catch that foot? Nope, I don't think so. I did now. Tuck this side of the hood down a bit more. Can you see? Much more hoodie. And this bit will have a line across there, a line across there. Just good old dents. Make them nice and strong as well. Don't be half-hearted about it. Really go for it, you know? Really proper dents. Like that. Okay, let's get those whiskers on. Okay, 2 grams each for the whiskers. Into a ball. Nice long taper. And it's about 4 centimeters long. Okay, so remember those big nostrils we made? I want this to go up his nostrils. So what I've got to do is make sure this goes the right length and the right width. So let's check it against there. Oh, yes. Okay. Fabulous. Right. Make sure that nostril is out big enough to do it and to cope with it. Tuck it in underneath, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see it. And what you make for one shape, make for the other shape as well. So it kind of tucks. And then I need to put some lines. Just same style as we did for the beard. Like that. Okay, so we've got lines on both beardy sections. So I'm not going to worry too much about where they go yet, but I need some glue because this warmish dried out a little bit. So I'm going to glue there and glue there. And then this is going to come out of his nose, up onto his hood and in to a coil like that. So you've got to make sure it sticks, yeah? So tuck it in his nose and make sure it's distinguishable from the bottom bit. Okay, back on this side, and I'm going to go in and make sure you can see that nostril. Don't go to the effort of doing something if you hide it. You want people to know you went to the effort of doing it. If you didn't go to any effort, hide it. Okay, I don't like that twist. I'm going to cut a bit off. It twisted slightly differently to the other side, so I'm going to just give it a pinch and a twiddle and a fix. Get that hood up nicely. Get some gap so that this hood has got air. You see what I mean? So what we're going to do, we're going to tuck some paper in there because it's so hot and everything's just flopping. We're going to get some air tucked in, some paper tucked in there, you know, kitchen paper. See, look how easy it's flopping tonight. Not normal, guys, not normal. Does not do that normally. There we go, he's looking good. So that moustache is fitted on now, and I've got some nice hollows at either side of the hat, and leave that in to dry for a second, and then I'm just going to dust him. Right, so we need to finish him off with a little bit of dust colour. Now we're not going to go crazy with this, he does need an awful lot. We're going to start with the light first. I got a load of colours, but we probably need barely any of this. And we don't need much colour because it's really strong. So it's a little bit of kitty nose pink, which is great because it's got that light kind of lip colour to it. I'm going to catch little bits of pink here and there. And what we do, when we get over there with some liquid afterwards, that changes the colour quite a lot. So the rest of the foot's not actually too pink, it's only really the toes. A little bit on the heel as well. on the underneath of the foot, in between the toes particularly, although we're going to be going in there with some dirty colours later because, well, he lives in the woods, doesn't he? There we go, a little bit of pink. So we're going quite delicate with this. This nose needs a bit of colour on there. So I'm going in gently first. But it does help having a bit of pink on that nose. You could go in there with the red as well. A bit on the side of the nostrils. Okay, like I said, this is nice and easy. There's not actually much of invisible. I'm going to use a little bit of milk chocolate because I need some dirt on those toes. They're far too clean for my liking. And I'm going to stick to the same brush because it's nice and small. So catching the nails effectively, because I want it to look like he hasn't really scrubbed those feet in a while. Now we had to leave it dry before I could even dust it because it's been so sticky in here. Look at those lovely dirty feet now. Catch it across the top of the feet and that'll pick out the veining that we did. There we are, you can see the veining's popped up now. Bit of dirt underneath as well. Don't want him too clean, do we? Dirt at the bottom. And we'll get some water on this as well in a minute. Tucking it underneath as well. Don't forget, if you've got a bit of loose dust, you can go in there with the puffer. Now, bit of dark chocolate to kind of tidy up those legs a little bit. And I am going to get the liquid on him right at the end. So just underneath those trousers again, got to make them look really dark here and there, not too clean all the time. Any grubby bits, make sure it's not too clean, you know. Catch him underneath the cloak where he sits down. That looks so much better, doesn't it? Just for looking dirty. A little bit of black, not much. I'm going to put barely any on my brush because we just want to get some shading in that beard. So every now and again, we're just going to catch some of this. Just get some really nice shading in here and there. Just want him to look like he's been asleep in his chair so long he's becoming part of the building. But you get the depth in there and it looks so much better, see? There we go. How's your beard, mate? Is it nice and clean? There we go. Hello, Fryn. I think we'll use a little bit of rejuvenated spirit. Actually, no, we'll use vodka if I've got any left. We could just use water as well. I'm just going to grab a glue brush. Nice scruffy glue brush. Doesn't need much going on with it. Wipe off some excess on your hand. And what you're going to do is you're going to catch him each of the toes so it'll pick out the toenails a bit better. So you're basically just wetting where you've painted, particularly each toenail, and it pushes some of the dirt around into the toenails and it cleans the top of the toenails. of spots on his nose just to make the colour change a little bit. So there he is, there's Fryn, all finished and sleeping in his chair. So join me next time for the final episode, and we're going to be putting together everything we've made so far and adding a few extra new bits as well. So any questions, pop them below. Visit my website for any information about me, my classes, my book, or the other products I've got available. But otherwise, happy caking, and I'll see you soon.